G'day everybody, today I'm going to try doing some St. Louis style American ribs on the barbecue. And for those of you who are in Sydney, the Australian Meat Emporium at Alexandria has advertised that they now have these new St. Louis style ribs which are new to their offering. They're these new Borrowdale pork ribs, as you can see, St. Louis style. I've got here a pack that's just under 2.5 kilos, a little bit on the expensive side, but to give them a go, we're going to see what they're like. There they are, 2 racks. You can see they're going to need a little bit of trimming, and I'm going to get that going now and ready. So here they are out of the cryovac. They look pretty good. They're quite thick and meaty. I've done ribs before that you might have seen on another video, and they're more full plate ribs, and they were shiners. They didn't really actually have a lot of meat on them, whereas these have a lot of meat. There's a little bit of fat there that I'm going to get rid of. I'm going to take off that membrane off the back, trim these up, get rid of a little bit of the skirt that's hanging off the back. So here we go, getting the membrane off. You can see if you just start it in the corner, you can start lifting it off, and if it's a bit hard to pull, just grab the membrane there with a paper towel, and you'll find that'll make it really easy to pull off. So here it is after I've trimmed off excess fat that's come out and the membranes are off, and that's all the stuff that I've taken off. I've trimmed up the excess off the sides with the little bit of cartilage bones, so you can see they're nice and neat there along the edge. Now these cartilage bones, I'm going to hold on to those, I'm going to freeze them and chop them up. They'll go really well next time I make a ragu for pasta, when I make a ragu sauce. Those little offcuts will go really nice in there. So for the moment I'm just going to take those, freeze them, and keep them for another recipe. There's no need to throw them out. But you can see the back of the ribs there once you've taken the membrane off and the excess fat and trimmed them up. They're a good looking pork rib, nice and neat, thick. They look like they'll make a nice juicy thick style of St. Louis style rib. Nice and clean on the back there with the membrane removed. There's a couple little bits of fat, but that doesn't really matter. They'll probably render off. So now for those of you who have watched the Franklin barbecue method, that's what I'm going to do. And you can look at Franklin Barbecue and his channel and how he does it. But this is essentially what he does, a really light rub with olive oil all over both sides, top and bottom, ready for a little bit of rub. So here we go. We'll just rub the olive oil over the front side. Really little, not a lot. It's really just to make the rub stick. That's all. We don't want them oiled or anything like that, just to make the salt pepper mix that I'm going to put on it just stick on nicely. So that's the top side. Flip them over, and we'll get a little bit of olive oil on the back side as well. Just a little bit there. There you go. You can see I'm not putting a lot, just a slight little drizzle, and then rubbing it all over so that I can get my spice rub to adhere to the pork ribs. Otherwise the pork ribs are quite dry. There's no blood or anything on them that's going to help anything stick. So a little bit of olive oil is going to help things stick nicely to it. This is the first time I'm doing these St. Louis style ribs, so hopefully they come out well, but we're going to go with Franklin's method. Here's my homemade mix of half pepper, black pepper, half salt, a little bit of onion powder and a little bit of garlic powder. I just put it in an old herb bottle that's got a shaker on the top. I've ground them up myself from coarse rock salt and from black peppercorns, and then just the onion and garlic is just store-bought powdered onion and garlic. Just a light sprinkle on them. Franklin recommends that you don't need too much. He goes a bit heavier on the pepper than what I do. But kids are going to be eating these, so I don't want to have them too peppery, just a little bit of a hint, that's all. Just rubbing it in a little bit, making sure I haven't got any clumpy bits. Turning on the other side, and we'll get a little bit of our salt, pepper, onion and garlic happening on this side as well. Just lightly, enough to give it a bit of seasoning, that's all. And there we go, that's pretty much really as much as we need. They look pretty good. Not too much more. And there we go. So here they are, they're ready to go. So the next step for me is going to be to prep up the barbecue, let these sit here for a half hour or so while I get my barbecue up and running. I'm going to aim for a little bit of a minion method today. So here's my Weber. I just cleaned it the other day. You can see this Weber is 16 years old now, and I wash it down every second or third barbie, so it looks pretty clean there. I've got some aluminium foil trays I'm going to put on the bottom, try and keep the barbie as clean as I can. So that's my 16-year-old Weber now. I give it a good wipe down every second or third barbie, and a bit of oven cleaner. You can see a little bit of scratching there on the bottom, obviously from the one-touch system that scrapes all the ash out, but there's no grease or anything in there. You could eat off that bowl. It is 100% clean. It's after 16 years, this barbie's pretty good. So now here's my method for lighting my charcoals. New little method that I've got. I turn on my gas barbie and I put my 4 or 5 starter beads just straight onto a burner. Yes, I do have a chimney. Yeah, there are other ways of doing it. I just find this way, because it's straight on a burner, I get these coals lit in probably no less than about 5-6 minutes. Got to be a little bit careful though when you're placing them. As you can see, it's really easy to make them tumble and tip over. So just a little bit of a steady hand. Get them all sitting on there. Takes me a little bit of time, as you can see. Knocking them over today. Not being as careful as I usually am. That's that one. Get this last little one up here. Come on, up you get. And they're on, and that's it. Now I'll leave these here for a few minutes, and you'll see shortly what they look like after just a couple of minutes. So I've got the rest of my basket ready with some heat beads there, leaving that corner empty. That's where I'm going to put these 4 or 5 starter beads. And now I am going to go over and get some of these apple wood chips soaking in water. Cowboy 100% natural apple wood chips. I've got my aluminium foil trays in there ready to go. I've sort of bent them over one another so anything that drips will drip from one pan into another, and crushed the edges as best as I can around the form of the Weber to try and catch as much dripping as I can and keep the Weber clean. My apple wood chips are there smoking. They're in some hot water. I don't put them in cold water, I put them in hot water so that the water penetrates the chips a little bit better and they don't go on the barbie cold. Here's my starter beads. About 3 minutes in, you can see that one side is pretty much all ashed over. They're not going to take much longer now. I've got my smoker box ready there to put my wood chips in, which I'm going to sit on top of the grate. I'm not going to put the wood chips directly onto the beads. Now here's my beads just another 2 minutes later. You can see 5 minutes and they're pretty much all ashed over and ready to go. So just to transport them over to my barbecue, which is only a couple of metres away, I'm just going to shove them in my smoker box, carry the smoker box over, and I'll place those into the little side of the basket that I left open there. Here we go. I'm going to try and shove them as much as I can into one corner, get the cold ones there out of the way, try and keep it all on one side, and I don't know, some sort of I guess a cross between a minion method and almost a snake method. This is the first time I do it like this. Normally I am a snake method guy, but today we're going to try this method, see how it goes. I've seen a lot of people do it in other various videos on the web, so there's no reason why it shouldn't work. Get those in there. Happy with that. Let's put the lid on. I've got my iGrill thermometer coming out. I'm not putting any thermometer into the meat, just into the Weber only with the ambient temperature probe. And you can see here, trying to keep it out of the sun, that she's pretty much already up to 130 degrees Fahrenheit. My aim is to get this to about somewhere between 230 and 270. Once I hit 230, that's when I'm going to put my ribs in and try and maintain it there above 230. Here's the iGrill app. As you can see there, I've got it set with a minimum at the moment of just on that 235 mark and a max of 265. So anytime it dips below the 235 and gets above 265 either side of where I want it, it'll beep me so I can go and check it. You can see the thermometer on the top of the Weber now is showing us that we're at about the 240 mark. The iGrill is saying that we're at 215, but heat rises, so it'll be hotter on that thermometer. I've got my smoking chips in there, ready to go. And now I'm going to put some boiled hot water into my water pans to keep a bit of moisture in there. And the water also helps regulate the temperature of your barbecue. So don't put cold water, boil a kettle and put plenty of boiling hot water in there. Between these two trays, I think this kettle holds about 1.5 litres. So that's about the water that I'm putting in there. Like I said, it'll help regulate the temperature and keep a bit of moisture in there so these things don't dry out. I'm going to put the ribs on with the thicker part closest to the coals. And I'm going to try and bunch the ribs up a little bit so they sit neatly over the foil trays to catch any drippings. That'll just help to keep my barbecue as clean as possible, so that I can get another couple of cooks out of the barbecue before it needs a really good clean and a once over again. Get that second larger slab on, try and get it there so that all the edges of the ribs are on top of the trays. So hopefully that's where all my drippings will fall. Keep the thing as clean as we possibly can. Okay, so there we go. Ribs are on, smoking chips are in, water is in the drip trays. I'm going to close the barbie up. The iGrill is keeping track of how everything goes. Get that lid on, make sure she's nice and solid. My lid's got a little bit of a leak. I have ordered some gaskets and they'll arrive shortly, and probably make a video of that when I put some lava lock gaskets on my lid to try and seal it up a little bit more. Top temp there showing just on the 200 mark. Make sure that lid's down nice and firm and keep those vents the opposite side of the meat. Now if you watch Franklin Barbecue, he likes to mist and add some sauce at about the 2 hour mark, so I'm using two sauces. Big Rick's Original, which is a sweet barbecue sauce. This bottle was almost finished, so I went a half and just added water to that. 50% water, 50% sauce. Then the larger rack I'm going to do with Big Rick's Hot As, which is a hot barbecue sauce. I've put a little bit into a jar there, once again half with water, and I've got that ready so that once I hit the 2 hour mark, I can baste. Okay, so here we are at the 2 hour mark and I'm just basting them up. Put the two different sauces on each of the slabs. The other thing I've done is I've wrapped some potatoes and just put them in some olive oil, some salt and pepper, and wrap those in foil. And for the next 2 hours while the pork ribs cook, we're going to have some potatoes happening as well. Okay, so just a little while ago we wrapped the ribs and let them finish off baking like that. What we're going to do now is take the ribs off, open them up, have a look at them and check them for tenderness just with a wooden stick, and make sure that they're soft enough. Now that wooden stick needs to go through the meaty part, and if it does then we should be pretty happy with how soft they are, but not into a bone. Yeah, so the stick's going in quite nicely, relatively happy with that. So given that the tenderness is probably about where we want it done, the last thing that I'm going to do now is put the ribs over the hot coals just to char them up just a little bit, and then put them back into the foil with their juice and let them sit for about half an hour before we eat them. So just whacking it on there, I'm going to do each side of it, give it a flip over, hold on to those juices that are in the foil so that we can put in there and let it reabsorb a little bit more. So one rack at a time is fine. Once one side's got a little bit of char and if you like a little bit of crust on it, we'll flip it over, do the other side, let that get a little bit of caramelization and crust on it as well, and these will be ready to rest up. Now if you noticed while I mentioned it before, while I was cooking the ribs, I threw a couple of potatoes that I wrapped in foil with a bit of olive oil and salt and pepper, a little bit of garlic and onion powder, the same stuff I put on the outside of the ribs, and I've taken those off as well, and they're nice and soft. There you go, the knife just goes through them. They're like mashed potato inside. These will be really, really yummy and nice to eat. Okay, so I did 5 potatoes like that, should be enough for all of us. Here they all are as I've taken them all out of the foil wrappers, and yeah, you can just see how nice and soft they are. They are really, really fluffy. The salt, pepper and oil that's been around them has flavoured them up a bit. Kids might like a little bit of butter or even gravy on top of these just to give them a bit more taste. We also charred up some corn over the coals just after I took everything off while it was resting, and here's our finished plate of dinner. Our charred up corn, our lovely yummy fluffy mashed potato, and our beautiful ribs. They've got a gorgeous red colour.